We get a lot of questions about termination of parental rights. Leslie, can you tell our viewers what that might, how someone might get their parental rights terminated? Or is there pros and cons to saying, hey, maybe my parental rights should be terminated?
There's pretty much voluntary and involuntary termination. Involuntary termination occurs mainly in CPS cases where the department has removed the child from your home because there's drug use or alcoholism or domestic violence, or for any number of reasons, the child has not been adequately cared for and may actively be abused. That is not the discussion here that I'm going to have here. Um, what I'm going to talk about instead is what's called a voluntary termination. Many times, parents will voluntarily give up their parental rights. And you might say, why would anybody do that? And again, answers vary from person to person. Most frequently, a parent can choose to give up their parental rights if there has not been a lot of contact with the child. You have been absent from the state or the city, or your job takes you away from the child a lot. So you haven't had any bonding with the child. Um, or it may be that, the mom has met another person who you think might be a better dad than you could be, and so you would voluntarily terminate your rights. I have had a case recently where the parents divorced, and then they had visitation with the child, and the child increasingly did not want to go visit with dad and would actively have meltdowns when he had to go visit mom. I'm sorry, visit dad. Um, and dad finally just got tired of that nonsense and said, "All right, I'm just not going to do this anymore. If he doesn't want to see me, he doesn't have to see me, and so I'll just terminate." And it's a sad decision to make, and it's a hard decision to make. Um, Another situation that comes up is you've been married or you have been with the same person for a long time, and a child is involved, and let's say that child is 9, 10, 11 years old, and then you and the other parent split, you divorce, or you decide that the relationship is not going to continue anymore, and it's what do we do about the child? And maybe you've had doubts throughout the relationship as to whether this is actually your child. Well, then we can get a DNA test. If the child's older than 4 years, it's more difficult to get a DNA test, but it can still be done. So if you have any questions as to whether this child is yours, get a DNA test and get it as soon as possible. So then what happens is you get the DNA test results back and you're not dad. That can be devastating to the parent because they have bonded with this child for the child's whole life. And you've considered this child to be your own. And now you find out that no, this is not my child. That's a really hard pill to swallow. And then you need to make the decision as to whether you continue the relationship with that child or you don't continue the relationship. And sometimes it's not up to you. Sometimes it's up to the mother because she will say, I don't want you. I don't want you in my child's life. I don't want you to have any say so about what happens to this child. You're done. You're out of here. You're not the father. And unfortunately, most of the time, you will be terminated. Well, you won't be terminated because you were never the father, okay? But there'll be a determination that you are not the biological father of the child, and if you're not the biological father, you have no rights. So if you have a question as to whether you're the father of the particular child, get a DNA test as soon as possible. Now, sometimes dads will terminate because they just don't want to pay child support anymore. Um, that's not a good reason to terminate. And I'm here to tell you that paying child support is a privilege. you should want to have to support your child. And if you do not want to support your child, then you need to ask yourself, why did I have this child? And support is a privilege.
And if you have any other questions about what we've talked about today, don't hesitate to reach out at the number at the bottom of the screen or message us on Facebook, nights or weekends, anytime.